Today at Tynecastle, Heart of Midlothian take on their local rivals Hibernian Football Club. Like the city of Edinburgh itself, it's a derby that's steeped in history, has a colourful past and is always full of surprises. Just ask the two men in charge today.
Everybody knows what this means.
It's just as passionate as it is in the Glasgow derby.
We're like no other games, I can assure you.
I always mention the 7-0.
The 7-0, it's been there ever since.
It's right down to business when that 90 minutes starts.
The passion that goes with the whole thing.
Frantic.
Commitment.
Focus.
It's got a little bit of spice because they've got a mad Hibby in charge and Hearts have got a mad Jambo in charge. Both sets of supporters are out there to compete against each other.
It's all about the bragging rights for the supporters.
The tension, everything takes over. We'll be looking forward to Saturday.
Most of all, you have to win the game.
Two of Scotland's biggest characters in football lead Edinburgh's top two for today's Clydesdale Bank Scottish Premier League fixture here on HD3 and Sky Sports 3. There'll be no love lost for Jim Jeffries and John Hughes. Friends off the park, but definitely foes when it comes to deciding this one. Well, they've played for the clubs they manage. They're great friends. They've worked together at Falkirk and Berwick. But today, they face each other from opposing dugouts. For Hearts manager Jim Jeffries, it's a return to an Edinburgh derby for the first time in some 10 years. Hibs may have had the better domestic season, but Jeffries has got his eye on settling some old scores. Well, it is the third time they meet this season, both games previously ending in draws. Hearts still have a slim chance of qualification for European football, whereas Hibs, well, they've started to let that possibility slip in recent weeks. Neil, what is it that makes the Edinburgh derby, or how rather does it compare to the Old Firm?
I think it's been perceived that way, and it is regarded as the Old Firm is a bigger derby than the Edinburgh one. But don't tell anybody that in Edinburgh. It's certainly not looked upon like that, certainly. I've played in both, and for passion, it is the exact same. It means the exact same. It's the same responsibility when you step on that pitch, what it means to the fans and the clubs and everybody connected with the clubs. So it's the exact same as far as I can see. I've played in them, and you know, when you go out there, 3 points is what you're going for in the match, but it means so much more than just 3 points, these games.
Oh, it's the bragging rights, as we heard them talking about, isn't it? What did you particularly enjoy about this fixture?
In particular, playing at Tynecastle is, you know, you ask anybody who's played in Scottish football, Tynecastle is just such a wonderful place to play football.
It is!
The fans are so close to you. I've scored in a couple of Edinburgh derbies and won a winner at Tynecastle, which was pretty special. I question my hair choice here when I've scored this goal. I'm actually asking if there's any hairdressers in the Hibs end there that might sort my hairdo out. But you know, these games are just such special occasions, and Tynecastle in particular, because the fans are so close to the ground that you can hear pretty much all the shouts that's going on. You can hear what it means to the fans that you go out and get 3 points, and it should be a cracker today.
So how much pressure do you feel then from these fans?
As I said there, it's just so much responsibility, you know, and it is more than 3 points, Ali. Ultimately, 3 points is what you're striving for as a footballer to get at the end of the match. But these supporters that come in here to the ground and indeed at homes watching the match, they go to their work, and it's bragging rights without a doubt. So that's what you've got to carry on your shoulders when you step into that environment, and do everything you can to get those 3 points. And
as you say, such a tight ground as well, that makes it all the more exciting, doesn't it?
It is, it's magic. You know, and I've said there, the Old Firm players, they love coming to Tynecastle because of the environment so intense. The fans are so passionate. They're hanging over the sides when you're taking throw-ins and corners. You know, there's a few bovrils and pies going astray. But those are things that make the game so magical to play in.
Well, let's find out a bit more about this Edinburgh fixture. David Tanner reports.
The capital's tourist attractions aren't the main focus of attention today, as Hibernian head from Leith across Edinburgh to Gorgie. All eyes on a derby which is coloured maroon and green, often red.
HibsvHearts, it's a huge derby. You go in and you see the hard challenges and bits of ruckus, a bits of fighting here and there. Being for Edinburgh, I know obviously what's at stake.
I'm English, but being here, it gets drilled into you straight away from the supporters.
In the days when players had to dodge invalid cars, the most famous Edinburgh derby of all time, New Year's Day 1973, Hearts 0, Hibernian 7. Current manager Jim Jeffries played in Hearts' defence that day. Hearts played 22 consecutive derbies without defeat in the 80s and 90s. John Robertson scored a record 27 derby goals. The most ferocious derby was in 1990, as Hibernians fans protested against plans for Hearts to buy Hibs and amalgamate the clubs. Scotland manager Craig Levein scored as Hearts won 3-0, but Hibernian won the battle for survival, and the derby continues. Today, the Hibs captain targets Europe. Hearts aim for the top 6.
With the season not going so well for us, it's a huge game to go into and a must win.
We want that third spot, and again, 3 points is going to be vital today.
Hearts manager Jim Jeffries returns to the Capital Derby today after a break of 10 years. He lost his last 6-2 at Easter Road. Hearts' biggest derby win in the SPL era was this 5-1 classic in 2002. Who will be the king of this castle today?
Well, that certainly gets the juices flowing, doesn't it? How important is today's match given where they both stand in the league?
Well, I think Hibs obviously want to get back to winning ways again and recapture that form that they had in the early part of the season. And they still get, an eye on getting third place, possibly even second. Hearts, I think's main objective is, to stay where they are in the league, get sixth place, get into the top 6, and from there, once they're there, Ali, then they can start looking above themselves. But it's such a huge game. As I said there, at 3 points is crucial when you come into these matches. Hearts have got St Johnstone breathing down their neck, Ali, for that top 6 place, so they know what's at stake. It just sets it up for a magic game. I don't see there being anything but full endeavour, full of passion, and hopefully we get a few goals today as well.
Is that what it comes down to then? Is it similar to the Old Firm derby in that sense, where it comes down to what you're made of?
Well, this game is just set up so nicely, Ali, because they've got two guys who are managing both teams, John Hughes, Jim Jeffries, and although they maybe have different views on how to play football, but they're absolutely full of passion, absolutely full of it. They'll have the teams wanting to rip the doors off the hinges, getting out there, and it's just all about going out there, playing for the jersey, playing for the colours, and making sure that when you step off that park, if you don't get 3 points, you've certainly made it difficult for the opponents to stop you from doing that.
Thank you very much. Well, Hearts versus Hibs is just around the corner. This is how important it is to both sets of supporters.
Massive in terms of top 6, but I think we'll beat them 3-0.
Vital. They 13 points ahead of Hearts, they'll never catch us now.
Very, very important. Make us in the top 6, and that's very important to us.
It's a very important game today, We've been playing rubbish, so if we can get a win, change the whole season.
Today is very important. Obviously Hearts are what is finished in the top 6, and obviously if they win today they can cut the points between Hearts and Hibs to 7, and obviously that'll spur us on to the end of the season and hopefully finish in a European place.
Time now to hand you over to your commentary team for this afternoon's game. It is Hearts versus Hibs, live from Tynecastle here on HG3 and on Sky Sports 3. So over now to Andy Walker, but first Ian Crocker.
Thank you, Ali, and let's check out the teams on Derby Day in Edinburgh. And Hearts gamble on the fitness of 3 midfield men. Ian Black has missed the last 4 games, Andy Driver the last 6, and Ruben Palazuelos the last 8. Yet they all start today. Jose Goncalves failed a late test on the pitch 90 minutes ago, so Egert Jonsson has to cover at centre-half. Michael Stewart, who's played for both sides, is another notable absentee. Gary Glenn gets the nod up front. Hibs have injury concerns too. Skipper Chris Hogg is out with a back problem, and Paul Hanlon's only on the bench because of a groin problem. So like Hearts, they've had to rejig their defence with Sol Bamba and Ian Murray at the heart of it, with Stephen Tico and Lewis Stevenson handed fullback roles. It's only Tico's 2nd appearance this season. Colin Nish is suspended, but Anthony Stokes and Derek Riordan do have 30 goals between them.